to be a plan with me video, and rather than just showing you what I have planned to do for this next week, I figured I would take you along and show you my entire process of how I make and put everything together. So basically when I am planning my lessons, I kind of try to either A, think of a theme. It's really easy in the elementary schools because you can basically just run with the holidays and the seasons and also like the back to school time, summertime, things of that nature. But also, according to ASHA regulations, we want to make sure that we are doing as much as we can to make our therapy relatable to what they are doing in the classroom. So whenever possible, which is very difficult, and I know y'all can feel me on this one, whenever possible, I will try to align my therapy sessions with whatever is going on in the classroom. It's significantly more difficult when you have groups of mixed grades because obviously they're not all doing the same thing. So I tend to kind of have like 2 sets of therapy plans going at one time. One is just like themed for my mixed groups, and then if I do happen to be lucky enough to have a group of children all in the same grade level, then we can kind of curtail the therapy to whatever they are working on and relate it to what they're learning in the classroom. Those are the 2 main ways I do therapy. Honestly, the classroom way is super easy. A lot of the time it's very minimal effort on your part to pull materials. You can get the textbooks or the materials that they're using in class and have the students bring them. You can grab a copy of them, photocopy reading passages, pretty much anything, and most of the time it's already there for you to use. I do recommend, depending on what grade it is, to have like a different activity that's kind of a reinforcer, because that tends to make them a little bit more motivated and they don't feel like they're doing schoolwork in speech therapy. I don't know, it just makes it a little bit more interesting. But that is a super simple way to do it, and like I said, the materials are pretty much already there for you, and it also gives them that reinforcement for in the classroom and classroom learning environment. On the other hand, my themed therapies do take a little bit more work, or a lot more work depending on, I tend to make most of them. I tend to just create them myself just from ideas I have or something that I want to try. So this is where I kind of put my effort in and where I'm putting in the long hours, but I personally love it. So this is like my jam. This is why I work in an elementary school. I love being able to be creative and come up with these types of fun activities that relate to different areas of learning. And I mean, sometimes you can relate it to what they are learning in class, especially in the younger grades when we're talking about like different shapes and counting and colors. I will try to relate it whenever possible. Being that it is the first week of February, I thought I would ease into the Valentine's Day spirit with a heart-themed activity, but I would not be the person that I am if I didn't add like a fun, quirky, weird twist on it. With that being said, we are actually going to be heart surgeons and mending broken hearts. For my heart surgery materials, I do not have them with me, but make sure you're following me on Instagram because I will post a picture sometime this week about our activity with all of the materials around us. But I have just those like sheet pans that you can get for like $1 or $3 at Walmart. I usually use it to do like sand or clay activities if we're making anything like that, to just kind of contain the mess. But I will use that as like the surgery area, and then I have like the jumbo plastic tweezers that you can get at the Dollar Tree. So I use those with my kids, and that's what we're going to use to put our heart pieces back together as we find the correct answers. Now that I have my theme and my idea of what I want to do, the big question is, how do I relate that to their therapy goals? That's like a huge gap that you have to bridge, relating your activity to what they need assistance with and what they need to work on. For my articulation kiddos, I have a couple of different ways that I do it. A lot of times I default to having the activity, whatever it is, be the reinforcer, and then I will have their speech words and word lists in their folders, itemized by whatever sounds they're working on. So I am able to just pull a list out for each child, and then we can drill those sounds. I can have them put those words in sentences. I can have them put them in phrases. Or I can give them just like a short reading passage that I created that targets their sound and have them read it so it's a little bit more conversational, and then we can kind of talk about it and I can gauge their speech sound production then as well. After each turn they get to, you know, spin the spinner, do the game activity that we have, and we move on to the next student. The other way I tend to incorporate that is if I just actually have the speech words built into the game. So whatever it is, they will like draw a card and it will have one of their speech sounds on it. This does get tricky when you have kids that are working on a wide array of speech sounds, because you just have to have all these different sound decks for one activity, and then you have to do it for each activity that you make. So I tend to not do that unless it's just a very common sound that I know 60% of my caseload is working on. I might make some activities geared toward those sounds. In the past, I've also laminated my activities, and then I'll just write the speech sounds on them. That makes it easy. I can just wipe them off when we're done, and I can constantly change them as needed. So those are just some options for articulation kids. For my language kiddos, one option that I have, which I really don't use that often, honestly I'll only use this if I'm in a pinch. It's not my favorite way, but it's similar to the articulation, where they will have either an activity worksheet or like a following directions cut and paste, and they have to do something on that worksheet, and then they get to take their turn for the language game or the game that we are playing. I just think there's too big of a disconnect there. It tends to take a really long time, and they're not as motivated to do it. And honestly, worksheets are just like not my jam. I will do it if I have to, or if I'm doing like, you know, data tracking and I need something concrete. But the kids don't like it. I don't really like it. It's just like, it's not that much fun. So I tend to try to stay as far away from worksheets as possible. If I like the idea of a worksheet, I will take that idea and kind of morph it into an activity or relate it somehow to something that we're doing in speech, and I'll kind of just create my own thing based off of that idea. I'm very excited to show you what I have planned. Let's hop into the video and I will show you what we're working with. Here is what my hearts look like printed out. These are the irregular past tense verbs. So I did them all the same color and all the same cut line, just in the interest of some of my kiddos not trying to organize it by matching up the shapes, and rather they're actually looking at the words to find the correct answer. So I am going to laminate this and then put it into the Cricut to cut it out, and I will show you what the final result looks like. So here are all of my pieces all cut out. This set over here is my irregular past tense verbs. This set right here are my synonyms and my antonyms, and then I have a blank set for my articulation kids. So what we're going to do is they're just going to try to match these up. Obviously, they have to have the one that is the correct past tense verb. And then for these, they are going to find not only the synonym, but the antonym of the root word in the middle. So they will collect 2 end pieces to make a full heart. And then for my articulation kids, they are going to just match it by color. So we are going to do the word list that I have saved for each kid that has their sounds on it. And then they are going to draw a piece that's face down so they don't know what color it is, and then they just have to get 3 of the same color and put it all together, and then obviously whoever has the most at the end will be the surgeon of the day. That is pretty much everything I have as far as my lesson plans go for this week. I do have a social skills group that I'm going to be using a school scenario deck from a previous activity with, and I'm going to use that deck with the multicolored hearts and have them answer those school problems about emotions and feelings, and then they can draw a heart and try to make a match. It's perfect for them because they are working on those peer relationships and also identifying emotions from themselves, but also others, and seeing how different people would feel in different situations. So that is perfect for this. Also, I have some kiddos that are working on like identifying images and objects, as well as answering like WH questions and comprehension questions. So I'm thinking about doing the story Frankenstein with them. They really like that book. It's one of my favorites because it's not your typical Valentine's Day story. It's like a cute little twist. So I'm thinking about incorporating that storybook and having them answer questions based on that book and the different characters' feelings throughout the story, and then they can also use the multicolored hearts to try to make a match. So it all ties in super nicely with my like Valentine's Day medical heart themed lesson plans. Hopefully this gave you some insight into how I plan my weekly lessons. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions about anything. Also, make sure you're following me on Instagram. My handle is The Speech Loft, so I will be posting there this week to give you the final image of everything all put together once I have the trays and the little tweezers out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!